President Trump hosted his longtime critic, comedian Bill Maher, at the White House, a dinner organized by Maher's friend and Trump ally, Kid Rock. But Maher's recounting of the dinner is not what you might expect from such an outspoken critic of Trump. Let's take a look.
He laughs. I'd never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself. And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy.
Maher also made some other shocking admissions from the dinner. The room where former President Bill Clinton had relations with Monica Lewinsky is now a storage room for Trump's merch. Maher also had Trump sign a list of almost 60 insults the president has hurled at him over the years, including digs like dummy, sick, and really dumb guy.
The outcome, Maher says that Trump was gracious and measured.
But not everyone is receiving the dinner as well as Maher. Users on X took to the platform to bash the comedian. Commentator Keith Olbermann writing, BTW, don't overanalyze Maher prostituting himself to Trump. I've known Bill since 1978. He was a shameless opportunist with no real principles then, and he remains so. This is so he can keep his HBO show. Actor and director Andy Ostroy posted, so he acts mean, nasty, callous, cruel, dangerous, and destructive on social media, at pressers, in speeches, and in his policies. But in person, he's just a swell guy. That makes him a sociopath.
Oh, Keith Olbermann, what a ridiculous...
Look, this is a PR stunt by Trump, played masterfully. That's what that is.
Well, Trump is a master of PR. But look, I like when people who don't otherwise agree sit down together. I think that's a good thing. I like Bill Maher. I don't agree with everything he has to say, but he's kind of someone of my general vibes and worldview. I think it's a sign of the times that he's softened toward Trump a little bit. I think that goes to show that Trump is making gains just with, like, Bill Maher comes from the world of un-PC comedy, of anti-wokeness, and the leader of the political faction that identifies with being anti-political correctness and anti-woke is, in fact, Donald Trump. So I think you can still criticize him. You can still have a kind of combative relationship with him, but this kind of friendliness is, again, not to be unexpected by someone who more and more probably falls into the Trump camp, because the other side, progressive liberals, are a bunch of humorless scolds who all hate Bill Maher because he's too moderate.
Oh, come on. That's a stretch. That's a stretch. I mean, really? Come on.
I mean, I know Bill Maher is not well liked on the left.
Well, I think sometimes, and I think other times it depends. But I think either way, it's interesting that Bill Maher came out with this, because he criticized Geraldo back in, 2018, who also was saying that in private Trump is this type of character who he described, and he criticized Geraldo for that. He openly criticized him.
Well, 2018 was like 1,000 years ago.
Was it 1,000 years ago?
Yeah.
But still, I think that when it suited him to then have this conversation, he decided not to be critical as much. I just think, again, it was well played by Trump. As you said, he is a PR guy, and I think that he knows who and the stage that Bill Maher has, and that this was going to come back to a national audience and sway people to his direction. So I think that it was just well played, and it's a beautiful PR stunt. And I think that Bill Maher was naive. Why would you think that he would attack you at dinner?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in his house.
Well, and Bill Maher also provides a platform that I appreciate, because it is one of the only major media spaces where you do actually have people of contrasting viewpoints brought on at the same time. Bill Maher does interviews and panels with a range of, with some Republican, Democratic political officials, media figures from all over. Steve Bannon was on. They had a really fascinating conversation about whether Trump can run for a third term, with Bill Maher very reasonably being like, but doesn't it say no? And Steve Bannon saying, yeah, I don't care, he's going to anyway. And some other really interesting guests. And, they argue and they discuss, and I think it's useful. And so it's a good, there's not our show does that, where you have actually
Dialogue.
we're arguing, and that's the way it's supposed to be, and I think viewers appreciate that.
Yeah, I do think that I don't know if when you watched it, if you felt the same way, Robby, but when I watched it and I heard the way he presented this monologue, recapping the dinner, it kind of felt a little Dave Chappelle to me, and the way he positioned it and the way he was telling a story but inserted a joke. Yes, another funny guy. And so it just reminded me of that. I'm not saying, there's any relation to it, but it did remind me, and I thought, is he trying to evoke some of that storytelling piece really well the way Dave Chappelle does? Just saying. Just saying. So anyways, it was interesting. Look, he went to the dinner, he brought back his feedback, and as he said, make what you will of it. He was giving his side. I just think that a lot of Americans are looking at him and saying, yeah, you got. You got.
I don't know about that.
All right.
Next up, things got very heated on the Joe Rogan podcast with Dave Smith and Douglas Murray. Stay tuned.